that's what it is, really. When you see Donald Trump on that town hall, and I've watched the video and I've listened to the tapes over and over again, all the times he mentioned Biden's boxes in Chinatown when he's trying to hide, his own dealing with presidential papers. I'm thinking, what is he trying to do? What is Donald Trump trying? He's really establishing Joe Biden as America's new yellow peril. Hi, everybody. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. Yeah, I'm still talking about the town hall. I know there's stuff going on at the border. I'm still talking about the town hall. I'll get into my the column that I wrote on the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, the ALDEF blog, ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog. No, because this is the thing that we need to be talking about. We need to be talking about not how many times Donald Trump lied the other day, or we need to talk about the hate that he spewed, because that was a kind of low-level hate. And I'll get into that when I get into my column. Also today we'll have Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Asian American Studies Department, Professor Emeritus, which means he's got time on his hands. We'll get Dan up here talking. Also going to talk about the President of the USA. That would be United Sexual Abusers. It's a new club that only Donald Trump can be president of the United Sexual Abusers, because he was really labeled a sexual abuser, liable for sexual abuse in the case of E. Jean Carroll. So we'll get into that. Lots of things we're going to get into today. Oh, I got to duck down here. Yeah. Duck down here in my closet. I'm really in a closet. You say, Emil, you're really in a closet. Yeah, I am in a closet. We'll also talk about, Emil sounds an awful lot like Elmo. And if you don't think I got that as growing up, Elmo, the Muppet, then imagine how I must feel today when I realize that they just hired a Filipino Muppet on Sesame Street, and it's not really Filipino. Sort of. Played by a Chinese actor. You mean to say they couldn't find any unemployed Filipino actors like me? My daughter said, oh, come on, Dad. You got to talk like a baby. I can talk like a baby. My name is TJ. You want to see my diaper? I can talk like a baby. I can do that. Get into that. Get into the Dubs tonight, Game 6 in LA. Can the Dubs get through the Lakers Game 6, tie it up, then bring it back to San Francisco on Sunday? That's really the ideal scenario. And then it's the Dubs versus the Denver Nuggets for the West. And then who do you want in the East? The Celtics, or you want the Knicks? You want the 76ers, the Miami Heat? Then you'd have a Filipino coach. Oh, it would be great. Eric Spoelstra, the Filipino coach. Half Filipino. So we'll talk about the Dubs, talk about Title 42, because, yeah, I know there's stuff going on the border. But really, no matter what goes on the border, yeah, we got to deal with that. But you're not going to deal with it until you get something comprehensive done on immigration. So we'll talk to Dan about that. He'll be up here. And I'll a segment I call Asian Pew. Pew comes up with a study. They ask a question. I'll ask Dan. You can see where you fit. the Pew Research Center. Always interesting. They love Asian Americans. They got Asian Americans working for it. So interesting. I mean, it's interesting to see what Pew says about Asian Americans. So we'll talk about that. All right. So my column. It's really it's all about how Trump has coined a new Asian slur, Chinatown. I mean, you must have seen it on Thursday, or on Wednesday rather, when Trump was on there with Caitlin Collins. Boy, she's getting a lot of. CNN is getting whacked over this. I think unfairly. I think unfairly so. I mean, they're doing what any middle of the road kind of news organization would do. I mean, here's a guy who's running, who's going to be the Republican nominee. Looks like he's going to be the Republican nominee. So what do? You say, here's a town hall. They control the news. I don't fault CNN for doing that, but we'll get into that with Professor Dan. Anyway, my column, I talk about how if you're Asian American and you saw that town hall, you know there's something to worry about, because it was Donald Trump's big national reveal of his new, what I call his xenophobic tick. You remember, he's the guy who made the phrases Kung Flu and China virus, the scourge of Asian America, which led to thousands of transgressions, often violent, toward AAPIs during the pandemic. So now he has a new trick up his sleeve. Considering how he loves to squint his eyes as he emphatically says, China. China. Look at him next time. He can't just say China. He can't say China. He says, China, China. It's like vicious the way he says China. I mean, he doesn't say the same thing about Russia, which is also an enemy, or Putin, also an enemy. China. That's Donald Trump. But you consider that, how he says it's the perfect racist follow-up for 2024. In his new campaign, Trump will now say Chinatown more times than a lost tourist with a hankering for egg rolls and sweet and sour pork. Those are the people saying, do you know where Chinatown is? I need some egg roll. Yeah, that's what the tourist has. Chinatown, Chinatown, Chinatown with zeal. In Trump's mind, this is as emotionally charged and divisive as it gets in the next campaign, really, as racially and emotionally charged and divisive. And since it's just as Asians, no one will notice, because no one notices us if we don't speak out. And not many are speaking out, not even during AANHPI Heritage Month. So let me be offended for us all, okay? Because I heard that the number of times Chinatown came out of his mouth, and I was offended. He's not talking about real estate. The Chinatown slur in many ways is made to order for Trump. When the topic of Mar-a-Lago and the unlawful handling of presidential documents comes up, as it will in this campaign, especially if more criminal indictments are to come, you can bet Trump is ready to have Chinatown on the tip of his tongue. Why? Because Vice President Joe Biden, when he was vice president, had an office in D.C.'s Chinatown. And that's where Biden apparently kept some of those presidential records he shouldn't have had. Of course, Biden has allowed the presidential archive to retrieve the documents. There was no need for a subpoena, as was the case with Trump. His haul of documents, many of which were highly classified. But in Trump's mind, the boxes are his bridge to get to another issue: the House Oversight Committee's investigation into the president's son, Hunter Biden. That investigation has revealed some connections between Hunter Biden and Chinese-based energy companies owned by high-level Chinese officials with connections to the Chinese military and the Chinese political elite. Does Joe Biden have anything to do with that? Of course he doesn't. The answer is no. But Hunter Biden has big money deals with Chinese companies, and Joe Biden has those archive boxes in Chinatown. What? Yeah, it's only relevant in the same illogical way that Trump made the Obama birther conspiracy a political thing and a general nuisance. It made no sense based on a lie that Obama was not born in the U.S. But if Trump lovers ate up that xenophobic smear, they'll love the Biden's boxes in Chinatown treachery. It's Trump's 2024 racist smear. Boxes in Chinatown. To Trump, it's proof that Biden's in bed, or at least in boxes, with the communists and President Xi. And you say, what of Trump's bootlicking bromance with Putin in Helsinki in 2018? Nothing like Biden's boxes in Chinatown, apparently. Trump has been practicing this since last month, when the House Oversight Committee, led by Representative James Comer, issued its report. Even the Wall Street Journal admits there's no smoking gun in any of it, and nothing really connects the president to his son's business dealings. But Biden has boxes in Chinatown, and that's good enough for Trump, who started the CNN town hall with the first of many lies that, for example, 2020 was a rigged election. If that's his barometer for truth, then he must really feel he's got something there with Biden's boxes. Yes, the boxes were in Chinatown, but they have nothing to do with anything. But it's a real thing, used to promote a lie. A lie that it's President Biden having a fiscal relationship with Chinese companies, not Hunter Biden. Just don't tell that to Trump or to his devotees. Trump at the town hall. He had boxes sent to Chinatown, he says to Caitlin Collins in response to questions about the Presidential Records Act. Chinatown, where they don't speak even English in that Chinatown we're talking about. This is Trump talking about Chinatown, but they don't even speak English? You mean in D.C.'s Chinatown? Home of the big sports arena where all Metro Washington goes to see major athletic and pop cultural events? You mean in the most gentrified D.C. Chinatown of today, where English is more commonly spoken than Mandarin or Cantonese? Trump carried on about the Presidential Records Act at the town hall, just as Caitlin Collins continued to correct Trump in real time, especially when Trump said he could automatically declassify documents when he took them, which is wrong. Trump glided over her objections and continued with his harangue. This is what he said. He said, why is it that Biden had 9 boxes in Chinatown and he gets money from China? That's what Trump said. Collins should have corrected him on that. So far, the business connection is between China and Hunter Biden. Still, the rowdy live audience, Jerry Springer-like they've been compared to, which fed off Trump's lies, clapped loudly at the Chinatown reference, just as they clapped when Trump said he would pardon some of the January 6th insurrectionists, just as they clapped when he insulted E. Jean Carroll, the woman who just this week won a $5 million judgment against Trump, who was found guilty, let's correct that, found liable by a jury for sexual abuse and defamation. Civil case. Found liable, not guilty, liable. To hear the crowd's applause is exactly why boxes in Chinatown will become a Trump thing. It lets him connect the president to China in an emotional way that brings out a divisive politician's secret sauce: American xenophobia. It's one of the few things in all of politics it actually trickles down. The negative feelings towards Biden's boxes in Chinatown transfers to everyone's negative feelings toward people in Chinatown, And not just the Chinese people, mind you, uh, or people of Chinese descent, but all Asian Americans everywhere. We saw what happens when Trump scapegoated us with the Kung flu and China virus slurs. An attack on one of us is an attack on all, no matter if you're Filipino or Vietnamese or Korean. It's all China to the perps. And it's all due to the modern form of yellow peril that has been on simmer for some time now, mostly impacting Asian American scientists and professors accused of being spies. But as Washington Beijing politics heats up, even the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus has noted that its leader, Representative Judy Chu, has been falsely and maliciously accused of misplaced loyalties. Misplaced loyalties. In a polarizing campaign, when the presidential documents issue possibly turns into indictments, it will be Trump's cue to ramp up the Biden's boxes in Chinatown rhetoric. It may protect him, but it will clearly stoke anti-Asian sentiment and discrimination of our community as perpetual foreigners. For others, the town hall was a showcase of Trump lies. We all should have noticed Trump's hate. For AAPIs, the CNN Trump town hall was our direct warning. And that's really how I saw the town hall. Let's bring up Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Asian American Studies, Asian American Political Studies, a whole slew of things. So Dan, what do you think? Is it the new yellow peril that Trump just unleashed on America the other day?
Kind of depends on how often he uh, takes shots at Asian groups. Um, and it even foreign policy, uh, and it's really easy to be anti-Chinese, especially in places like New Hampshire,
Yeah.
where there
Oh
aren't
yeah.
that many people of color, and generally. Anyway, yeah, it's we called it not only we called it yellow peril, but some of the browner Asian groups took exception to that historically. They did the same thing that a lot of folks do when there's anti-black racism, especially violent demonstrations and killings of blacks.
Mhm.
Everybody else who's not, people of color don't have to identify with it,
Yeah.
and so they can just say, well, that's them, it's not us. And the same thing has gone on in Asian communities within the United States over a period of 200 years of history. That's them. It's not us.
Yeah.
It's
But
Chinese trying to distinguish themselves from Japanese during the Second World War is a good example.
well, that's true. And also the Filipinos too. The Filipinos said, look, we're not Japanese,
We're not
right?
Chinese either, even though there's a whole
Yeah.
lot of Chinese DNA in us. All you got to do is look at. So, in general, when they say China or Chinatown or Chinese, you're right. There's a generalization. The generalization is towards people who are, have certain shape of eyes that's a little more obvious, and dark colored hair. Yeah,
Gotta round
yeah,
out my eyes
yeah.
here.
If you keep the surprised look, you could get away with saying, I'm not Chinese. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would never say that. I would never. In fact, that's one of the things that the Pew study said, that one of the things that's confusing, not just within the Asian American community, but to people who look on the Asian American community, is that we call ourselves by all sorts of names. Sometimes Asian, sometimes Asian American, sometimes just by ethnicity. Sometimes we call ourselves American, although American born are more likely to call themselves American than immigrants. But because it's all across the board, there seems to be a confusion, although I don't think there should, but certainly I think when Donald Trump goes out there and says Biden's boxes are in Chinatown, he's trying to double dip here. He's trying to double dip the hate, in terms of, Hunter Biden being connected to Joe Biden. And he's also trying to, fan the flames of xenophobia. Like, oh, Chinatown, there's a connection. Oh, he must be pro China. And Asian Americans already know, just within the last couple years, specifically with Asian American scientists and Asian American college professors, there's been suspicion in many campuses about the loyalties of Asian Americans. So,
Sure,
I
sure.
mean,
I mean,
it's
there's been continuity, and even in the Bay Area,
mm,
over my career of more than 50 years,
mm,
there have always been continuing examples of anti-Asian attitudes among students,
yeah,
particularly white males towards towards Asians,
mm,
and some of that has to do with their uh, very obvious racist misogyny towards Asian women.
yeah.
So that has happened a lot. Now, I want to be the first to say that not all white men who have relations with Asian women are either racist or misogynist.
You
However,
wouldn't be the first to say that, would you?
how yeah, yes, it would. I would
Oh,
be.
because that's prevailing. That's a
Yes,
prevailing notion.
it's prevailing, and it also, even with the phenomenon in mail order brides.
Oh yeah.
Okay, the ratio of broken marriages, okay, to white males is a lot higher than the general divorce rate.
Really, I didn't know that. I mean, so
Yeah,
if you
there's not enough comparative ethnic approaches to these things.
well, wait a minute, Dan. I understand that when you did a mail order bride thing, it comes with a 90-day guarantee at least. And that's not true.
Yeah, you're gonna have to show me that contract. You're gonna have to show me a copy of it. Let's print it out and send it to me. I want it. I want
Hey,
it.
no, I don't have. I married a white woman. I don't have a mail order bride. She
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
she makes me go to the
Well,
mail
maybe.
box.
So did Kathy have a contract? I mean,
No, no, no,
maybe it was the other way around.
no.
That
No, I,
liberated American women, man. I mean, they
look,
call the shots. I mean,
look,
you might. You're just
Dan,
eye candy. You're just eye candy, man.
Dan.
You're.
One thing you did say that
How do you know you weren't sexually objectified? I mean,
well,
I want to know.
oh, I don't know. But one thing you did say that I appreciated is that you mentioned the misogyny that
Yes,
was clearly there at the town hall.
yes,
Again, certainly toward all women, but
yes.
that there is a
But
subset.
particularly the nasty ones.
Right. Oh, and then of
You know,
course, this is exactly when the nastiness came out toward from Trump toward Caitlin Collins, the CNN host. This is where he called her a nasty person, which I thought was part of the Trump playbook, of course. But this,
it was early on. It
yeah,
was very early on, because she started off with appropriate questions.
right. As she talked
And,
about the election, him coming forward and saying, "Can he accept the results?" But it was around this time in the town hall that then they went into the presidential archive stuff, and then he went into Biden's Chinatown boxes. Which,
1850 boxes. That's a direct
yeah,
site.
that's right. He did say
Okay.
that. He did say that, and then the
Yeah.
9 boxes and
Chinatown is so small. 1850 boxes, if they were file boxes, would be extremely noticeable.
wait.
Don't you think?
He said 1850. I don't know if he meant documents or boxes. I think
He says boxes. The
he said
word he used is boxes.
because I had another site in the transcript where he said 9 boxes. But anyway, yeah, it's a number. It's a large number, and every time Trump brings it up, he brings up not only he uses it as a shield to protect himself, but to show that, hey, look, Biden and those it's in Chinatown, and Hunter Biden and the Chinese connection, and how much we hate the China. It's like this is like a those bullets that have several things going on that they continue to destroy once it's lodged in your body. It's a what I mean. It's like a
Sure, sure.
multiple deploying kind of um, uh, you know projectile that just explodes and damages. And I when I saw that, I said, people need to speak out about this
Well,
because
we need to recognize also. See, okay, we have all of these threats coming from the right, okay, and everybody talks about it in terms of extremism. The reality is, you can take those extreme positions, and you can take the violent actions that often emanate, right, that are started by those extreme positions, and give people permission to act out in violent ways. That's been consistent
yeah,
throughout the history of American society. There's always been some segment of American society, and it ebbs and flows. I mean, sometimes it is suppressed, okay, because the greater majority of people resist it. Remember how during the McCarthy, well, as a historian, you would remember. I think you're a little younger than me, so but during the McCarthyism era, right,
yeah,
the earlier McCarthy, that they were massive generalizations. Okay, once again, many of them racially triggering, right? I mean, and but people wouldn't talk about it in those terms. They would talk about it in terms of prejudice, but they
right,
wouldn't talk about it in terms of outright racism. Because when you say racism, it takes on institutional, right?
right,
Uh, size. It takes institutional mass. And when you say prejudice, that tends to be a little more local. It's just a common folk that may be practicing this thing that doesn't really lead to violence. But what we have had in American society is a consistent element of
right.
not only institutionalized racism, but popularized cultural racism, and that's going to continue. So what Asian Americans need to do is recognize that, accept that, and act accordingly.
Which
You have to
means what?
always be on guard.
Act
You have
act
to be on guard.
accordingly. All right. So the closest thing with it is in recent history that's analogous is Kung Flu China virus Trump used to scapegoat Asian Americans, and look what happened. We had this onslaught of transgressions against Asian Americans. Is it
Yes.
too far fetched to say, yeah, when he keeps using China, Biden's boxes in Chinatown, is it too far fetched to say that, hey, we're going to see something like this too? Or it's possible.
Well, okay. Let's. You know, there's a lot of interesting things that people have brought up the Murdoch uh, building disaster. The original mass bombing, right?
In Oklahoma City.
In Oklahoma City, and that McVeigh, the perpetrator, specific perpetrator, was like many of the mass shooters these days, motivated racially. Okay, not only with right wing thinking, that tends towards authoritarianism, and but also racial supremacy. White supremacy in American society. And
Right.
then yesterday, Tuberville came out with a statement that said, no, they're not white supremacists, they're white nationalists, and they are us. So
Ooh.
he is saying that Republicans are white nationalists. And right now, a few Republicans are saying, oh man, between people like Tuberville
Yeah.
and Trump, we can call them the TT brothers, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's a fine line of difference between white nationalists and white supremacists. And some people would say, hey, it's not just a fine line. It is synonymous.
Congruence. It is congruence. They
Yeah.
are they are congruent. There's no distinction between
Yeah.
the two. I would tend to agree with that.
Yeah. And so it's just crazy. that someone, oh, Tuberville's a football coach. What does he know, right? And so
Former, yeah, and
former,
it's a
former,
very successful one.
a successful one. Okay, he's so we should give him. I mean, he's smarter than the average bear, but apparently much more racist than the average bear.
Well,
So
he's a Southern football coach, and his greatest success was with a typically Southern university. That football is religion.
yeah, well, I mean, belief, got to believe. All right, so we got this. I've shined the light here. We got to take care of this. To go back to the analogy to Kung flu, China virus, which Trump used during the pandemic, which resulted in more than 12,000 transgressions, minor
Hmm.
to major, against, some violent against Asian Americans. Is it a kind of thing that we could see again if the rhetoric keeps up? Because, you know, the
Well, my point
antagonism
about
toward China isn't going away.
citing Tuberville was not only that it happened yesterday, but that it's somebody else besides Trump.
Mm,
Okay, you can't be putting the focus on Trump all the time, because all he's doing is he sends signals that
mm,
he believes resonate,
right.
right, with the general public. And so all he's doing is reading what he believes to be the inclination, the cultural habit, if you will,
Mm,
of a major segment
right.
of the population. Now, is that tied to the fact that they lose? They've been losing since 2018, right?
Yeah.
And and the answer is yes. So it's kind of silly, right?
Oh,
Because people are saying he can't win a general, and I believe that's more probable than not that he cannot win a general. But
yeah.
you absolutely cannot underestimate the power and magnetism of all forms of racism, misogyny, hatred of LGBTQ people, all of that. I mean, all you have to do is take a look at what books they're banning,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right?
Well,
And
that's
and
true.
and, they, and it's so ridiculous. It's so deep and profound, right? That even cartoons about kids growing up, in the countryside, or being poor and living in the city, with no pornography but a naked butt of a little kid, right? In a graphic, that got banned. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's how far out they're going. What's the real underlying issue? They don't want stuff talking about equality in either forms of race or ethnicity, and or gender difference, sexuality difference, right? And even class. They don't even want you to talk about poverty. Okay, and this is
They
what
want to talk about anything that could be negative about the United States, or, well, if you talk to them, they'll say, well, there's a place where you can learn all that, and that's in the home or in the church. There's an
right. That
appropriate,
is the duty of and choice, right? It's the choice of the parents.
right.
Okay.
So a choice to keep their children ignorant, I guess. So
Well, to make them racist,
yeah,
to how about all of the Congress people that sent out Christmas cards last year, right?
yeah,
With all of the kids armed,
yeah,
and in some instances with semi-automatic rifles.
right, right. So Dan, let's move on to the idea that CNN's getting really pilloried for doing this, for
I
putting,
agree with you. It's unfair. I think you know. I looked at your column.
yeah,
It's unfair. But on the other hand, right, I don't agree with everything that Mr. Light uh,
licked.
said.
Chris
Yeah,
licked. Yeah,
is it licked or like?
yeah.
Okay,
It's licked. Past tense. He
right.
still has a job.
I knew you were gonna do that. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had to do that. Okay, and I got a bunch of follow-up one-liners, but we can't use them.
All right. So
We can't make
Chris
up your own audience. Make up your own.
Chris
Yeah,
Lick
so
for
licked.
president. I mean, he's trying to make CNN look like CBS. He came from CBS.
Well,
So
he argued very strongly, right? We want the public should hear from everyone. Okay, I agree with that. But the problem is that audience. was obviously a bent audience that was extremely biased in Trump's favor.
Yeah.
So as a town hall, it was a bust. Okay, it did not in any way reflect, I would say, reasonable behavior. They cheered him when he was at his most vile,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And they laughed at women when he was most, I guess, comical, when he made comical references, or to me they weren't funny.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, but it's funny to people who love Trump and like the fact that he's trampling all over democracy. So, in that sense, they are engaged in that game. One writer called it the Jerry Springer Show, which I could see that now because you got the crowd, cheering on Trump, who thinks he's at
yeah,
a
but
wrestling match.
even Springer's show, there was a conflict.
Yeah.
The core of his show was bringing people together in confrontation, right?
Right. And then
And
bringing it at the end together.
yeah, and you're
It-
not seeing that.
awesome.
So the Springer reference is not fair to Jerry Springer, rest his soul.
Well, that's right, and he just died too. So yeah,
Yeah,
may he rest in peace. All right, so I agree. I say that CNN did what any middle of the road kind of news outfit would have done. He wouldn't have gone on a MSNBC. Although there should be no reason why he doesn't go on MSNBC, except that MSNBC is declared to the left, just like Biden doesn't go on Fox. Although there shouldn't be
yeah.
a reason why Biden doesn't go on
Well,
Fox.
okay. Here, one of the things that Trump tries to portray, and one of the reasons that he's successful, right, at gaining audience support, and a large scale audience, not just a town hall kind of situation, but a national, right, base
Mm.
of support, is because of his misogyny, right, and they really favor that. Okay,
Yeah.
so what about his uh, his relationship with, I think the big sight is, he's going to be losing suburban
Suburban
women,
women. Yeah.
and you know it, inside this reference to suburban women, do you think there's a racial element?
Well, the suburban women would be mostly white suburban women.
I agree. I
So
agree.
the racial element is what? Then you have white males calling their wives race traders, or you end up with a high divorce rate. I mean
They
that.
might. They might. And the guys who would engage in that got guns. I mean, that's the crazy part, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That the concentration of guns in the hands of the few is so ridiculously dangerous.
yeah. But
Uh,
I would
luckily,
not.
luckily, we only all have, both. If we're lucky enough to have both hands, we got two hands.
Yeah.
So they
Well,
can't shoot all those guns at once.
all right. Now, since we're talking about white supremacists, we had that shooting in Allen, Texas.
Oh boy,
There was a Latino uh,
who identifies
who
with,
identified as a white supremacist,
right?
a neo-Nazi, an incel. So it's like, I guess that's one way to say that the neo-Nazi movement is a diverse movement.
What is Terrio?
Oh,
Recently
there-
convicted of sedition.
That's right. I think he's Hispanic of some sort. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
I know I've been asked that, and of course we have Filipinos who are right wing Trumpers, like that guy Cesar, who had the white van that was.
yeah. Well, it used to be white. It was papered with Trump stuff all over it.
Yeah. So I mean, so it's always been, um, diverse, that right wing, incel, violent
There
movement.
you go. There you go. I like the mention of incel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he called himself an incel, the guy Mauricio Garcia.
Yeah,
But for Asian Americans, it was a real, uh, I mean, sad instance because four of the eight who
yes.
died were Asian American. Three from, or yeah,
One
three,
family.
Yeah, three from one family with one
parents and one child. You know.
yeah, and one surviving member who
Yeah.
is in the hospital, and then there was that Indian engineer, female engineer. So four Asian Americans dead. I mean, it's sad. I don't know. Notice how quickly that story just fell off the face of the earth. No one talks about it anymore.
Yeah.
We don't see any.
Well, part of the reason I think that happens is because people are expecting another one.
Right,
So yeah, the cycle is repeated so frequently with such great frequency these days
right.
that that's not the hot news anymore, and there is an anticipation that there's going to be another one.
Yeah, and uh, and I don't recall Trump talking about anything about guns or the Second Amendment. Did you? Do you recall? I mean,
No, of course not.
it didn't. It didn't come up. All right, let's go back to Trump because I did mention E. Jean Carroll in my column, and she won her civil lawsuit against Donald Trump. Donald Trump was found liable for sexual abuse and for defamation. The jury awarded $5 million to E. Jean Carroll. She may not collect, but it's a symbolic victory for her and maybe a symbolic victory for all victims who do not believe they're heard. So I would include Asian Americans there, certainly Asian American women. So I applaud E. Jean Carroll, but it didn't seem to have any effect on Donald Trump on Wednesday.
Well, yeah, but none of it is having an effect on Donald Trump. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is that his defense counsel in every possible instance, right? Don't want him anywhere near a courtroom
Right,
because look at what he does when he's out on his own, and they're afraid that even if 5% of what he does when he has the public ear and eye, if he behaves in that manner, he's screwed. He's really convicting himself. And so I keep saying, right on, Donnie.
yeah.
Just
Well,
keep
he could
firing up.
be. I mean, I think E. Jean Carroll is talking about maybe suing him again. I mean,
Well,
making it.
she's already got one pending, right? She has
Yeah,
an older suit pending, and because it's a federal suit, and it's not at state level, like the civil sexual abuse conviction.
right.
It's liable. It's not a guilty conviction,
Yeah,
right?
but it may say something about how uh, there's no way. It's almost like Donald Trump is this political zombie. He does not go away. He does not die. How do you make sure he's not silenced by
You're not
Lucy
you're not
Q?
suggesting that we dismember him.
No,
You got-
I don't even know how you get rid of zombies. I'm just saying that
yeah.
he
Well, you
keeps
gotta.
he keeps coming at you, stalking us, saying, "I did not lose that election. Election was
That's right.
rigged.
That's right.
Election was
That's right.
rigged."
I don't even know this woman.
Yeah, I
It's
don't.
all
Yeah,
made up. You
I
know.
mean,
And then they got pictures of him in the
it-
same place at the same time. And I
look,
don't know who that is. Oh wait, that's my wife, my
oh yeah,
ex-wife, Marla.
he's
Oh,
not my type. Oh, that's her.
oh,
I can.
yeah, that's right. God.
So, uh, I don't really understand here, Dan, how we. I think we just have to live with it. I guess, or no. What I don't understand is why Republicans can't quit him. We talked about why can't Asian Americans quit him. The Vietnamese and the Filipinos are still the biggest portion of Asian Americans who support Trump.
I think part of it's religion. I think he's taken on the mantle of anti-abortion.
Mm.
And so people who are this goes right alongside Christian nationalism,
Yeah.
and which so if you're going to call it Christian nationalism, can you call it Christian white supremacy?
Well,
Okay,
I guess, yeah. I mean,
and so there are Vietnamese people and there are Filipino people who will choose to identify with Christian nationalism as part of the anti-abortion and which is less hypocritical than anti-contraception, which some states are already moving back
yeah.
to the pre-Griswold. you know,
Hey,
uh,
but Trump
Connecticut.
Trump would not say, he would not say if he would sign a federal abortion ban. So that's got to work. If you were backing him for the abortion issue, and he's not saying whether or not he would ban,
Right.
we'd sign a federal abortion ban. I don't know if I trust. I think that's sort of the thing.
Okay.
How can you trust Donald Trump? No one can trust Donald Trump.
Sure.
You can
Sure.
laugh at him. He likes that, but can you trust him? And is this what you would say is Donald Trump is presidential material?
Well, with Filipinos and Vietnamese, though, the Catholicism and the level of devout Catholicism among a substantial proportion of each of those communities' population, right? That's a major driving force,
Oh
and
yeah.
so even though it might be in doubt as to whether Trump would be absolute on a ban against abortion, the alternative is the Democrats, and the Democrats are pro-choice, and they're very solidly pro-choice. Although there are some Democrats, moderate Democrats, who are pro-life,
So
but
it
but they would allow for abortion in limited circumstances.
so it leaves some Asian American conservatives without a candidate unless they say, "Okay, you're our guy." I mean, I guess that's what a lot of Republicans are saying because the Republicans can't quit him. And I was reading a part of a Wall Street Journal editorial, the lead that said, "Well, here's Trump. He's now been convicted, liable for sexual abuse. Does it matter?" And they said, right in the lead, their lead editorial the other day, they said, in a perfect world, yes, it would. But in a polarized world, it doesn't. Well, I got news for everyone. We can have the perfect world just by saying we're in a perfect world. Let's honor our laws. Let's honor our morals. Let's honor our ethics. We're in a perfect world. But for some reason, conservatives, Republicans, they get to that point. They say, "No, no, we can't have a perfect world because we lose. We can't lose. We got to be winners."
Well,
So,
this is the party that all the way across the board, and not just remember the Tea Party and not just the extremists that we see now, but all the way across the board. This is the party that constantly said, "We support the Constitution.
yeah,
Back to the Constitution. We
yeah,
support the Constitution."
yeah.
And I ask people, okay, you're a Constitution a supporter,
Me,
and
me, you're
that's a
talking
good
about
thing.
me?
Yeah, I'm a Constitution supporter
Oh,
too.
you're going to use
So
the C word now.
what's your favorite protection? What's your favorite right? That's
Uh,
protected under the Constitution. Can
yeah.
you can you tell me which of the Bill of Rights you see is more important than other elements of the Constitution?
I like
Anything.
the I like the 14th.
Yeah, well, that's a biggie. It's beyond the Bill of Rights, and an
Oh,
ultimate
okay. Are we
purpose.
limiting ourselves to the first 10?
Well, and that's what people want to do.
Yeah,
They want to ignore sweeping changes that were made by the courts, that
yeah,
were condoned by the courts, and the 14th Amendment was started out as legislation, right, at the federal level, but
yeah.
all amendments have to be ratified by a majority of the states.
All right.
Okay.
All right. If we keep it to the first 10, number one is number one for a reason, right?
Well, and there's what, five elements to the First Amendment.
Right. I just think they loaded that one up. I'm a number one guy. Are you a number two? You look like a number two. You look like a
Okay,
number two
let's
guy.
say the five. That's crude. The five elements
Yeah.
of the First Amendment are, the first two are religion, right? The
Uh,
Establishment Clause, okay, Free Exercise Clause, okay, and then there's actually there's six elements. I'm wrong. There's six elements because it's three pairs. The
uh,
second pair are freedom of expression,
and
right,
then and then assembly, right? Assembly
and
and
then assembly, right, and the right to petition.
yeah.
People forget about the right to petition, like I just did. There's six elements.
The
So
right to meaning to appeal or the right to petition.
complain. You can complain.
Blank.
People
Yeah.
can, as a group, right, sign a statement that says this is a problem that we see with government, and they can do that without fear of retaliation.
Well, that's important. Rarely upheld unless you got a good constitutional lawyer saying, "Hey, this is the first. This is the first."
Yeah.
Like the petition. All right. That's important. All right. Look.
But see, the right wing, man, they're all about the Second Amendment,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
their interpretation of the Second Amendment has now been validated by the U.S. Supreme Court.
well, they need the Second Amendment for when they take over and they haul us off into prisons and
Well, that's
keep
not the
us.
way they're explaining it. They're saying we need the Second Amendment like right now because the
Ah,
government
they have.
is taking away our rights, you
Right.
know, and
Yeah.
they're forcing us to do things we don't want to do.
See,
You know?
this is why it's going to be we're swinging back where there's going to be some states that'll do it the way that it should, and there's going to be some states that want to take this radical right wing fascist type of you know.
Yeah, and I think that is not as much to do with Trump. I mean, he's a cheerleader for all of that,
Yeah.
okay? But it has much less to do with Trump and much more to do with what Trump supporters want.
Yeah.
That that's what they want. And if people are saying, well, there's no alternative, so Trump is going to be the nominee. Well, could you entertain the possibility that there is an alternative?
Well,
That that,
yeah.
that
I mean,
you know,
maybe the. I mean, they say this a lot too. That Trump is in control of 30% of the base, the rabid base, enough to win a primary, but not a general. Now,
right?
how is he going to appeal to moderates in the center and to the left of center who might go with a Republican who is just more agreeable on and middle of the road on things. I mean, there's nothing middle of the road about Donald Trump.
Well,
And
because of the position taken by Governor Youngkin, right?
yeah, okay, yeah,
That that
which is
that that made him. I mean, he was a right winger all the way up until he won the nomination for
yeah,
governor, right? And
that,
then he moderated, which is typically what
that's
people do,
yeah,
both from the left and the right, right?
yeah.
Okay,
Move to the center after you go
that's right. They moved to the center to try and get more votes, when it comes down to the last competition. Okay,
so,
and do you think Youngkin is viable if somebody like Youngkin went for it?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people who are conservative, like Asa Hutchinson, yeah, Arkansas, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know my conservatives that well. Um, I just think it may be a moderate like Chris Christie. It may be someone like that
Yeah,
who,
he got too much baggage. That's the problem.
well, he's got Trump stripes somewhere. He's hiding them, but he was in there.
Oh
So
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
Oh, you want to know what the stripes are? They're on his tongue.
yeah. All right.
Okay, we will not explain how that happened.
Okay. All right. I got it. And Chris Licht would know.
Oh no,
No, no,
I
no.
didn't do that, Kathy.
Chris, Chris
Kathy,
Licht,
don't.
Chris Licht would not know. Hey, let's move on to we got it. We're going to do a shorty today. So let's
Okay,
cover a couple of things. Um, I want to cover Title 42 because the whole
okay.
COVID thing has changed. Policy has changed. We got the border being, overrun, and you could look at the story today about how they're going to be dealing with this influx of immigrants. But the fact is, nothing is going to be done until Congress has the courage to take a stand to come up with bipartisan immigrant reform or immigration reform. And the bill they passed the other day, just barely, it doesn't really address the issues that they need to address, but you got to do something big in Congress. And I don't know if they have the guts or the courage in Congress. So, where do you think we go with Title 42 as Congress tries to figure out how brave they're going to be?
Yeah, there has to be obviously a lot more control. The problem is that the Republicans need this issue to remain stalled. Okay, they need it to remain stalled so they can keep pointing at illegal crossings across the border and
Right.
the ineffectiveness of Biden administration controls. The
Right.
reality is that everybody that wants to make America look weak in the world,
Yeah.
right, is using social media, and also with the assistance of the cartels,
Right.
right, who are running the coyotes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really crazy. This
Right.
is really crazy. And
Yeah.
so you got the Russians, you got the Chinese, you got the North Koreans. They're all playing social media games, right? And
Right.
they're all laughing at the United States, not just at the Biden administration. They're laughing at us all, right?
Well, the traditional media, is ineffective. I mean, we have technology usurping the way things used to be, and if you want to reach people who are on the move with their cell phones, on the move, trying to figure out where to go, I mean, cell phones have become this multiplicity of things in our lives. This gadget, it's a phone, it's a newspaper, it's your I got uh,
Literally your compass.
yeah, I got an infection notice the other day, not for me, but I didn't realize I had it on my phone. It said, oh, there's an infection in your area. I mean, this is the thing about technology that uh, how did we do it well, we had phones 5 years ago, 10 years. How did we do it 20 years ago? How did we do it 25 years ago, a generation ago? When we actually had to pick up the princess phone that was on the wall and say, you know, dial, hello.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's just, and it didn't do anything. Like, you couldn't use it as a calculator. You couldn't
sure.
use it as a text when the phone lines were down.
No,
So,
our first cell phone, our first family cell phone, wasn't even the brick. It was in a bag.
oh yeah, the
It was a
bag phone.
small bag.
Yeah,
And,
I had a bag.
this was we're at the late '80s, mid to late '80s, right?
Yeah, a Motorola the size of a boot it
That's right.
was. And
Then came the brick. That's right, the
yeah.
Motorola brick, and then there was the early Motorola flip phones.
Oh yeah, they were
They were
I
like a half brick.
I, I liked them. They were dumb. I mean, they're dumb
Yeah,
compared
yeah,
to,
but they worked.
but they were
They
and
worked.
but
Yeah.
the
Then
thing,
came the BlackBerry.
oh yeah, the
But
black,
anyway, yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
then came the iPhone.
Yeah.
But
I know. I was a holdout. BlackBerry, okay, I'll go with the Palm Pilot. Palm Pilot.
oh my God. Yeah, remember when they started trying to make those smart, and
Yeah.
and you could get a stylus.
Say, go back to
Right?
the cockpit,
And,
Palm Pilot.
yeah.
You're
Well,
not good enough for the Apple. Not good enough for the iPhone 3.
so the problem is there's not a common set of facts being broadcast by four major broadcast networks.
Like
Not,
they
I'm
used to.
including the independents that had
Yeah.
not yet been bought out by Fox.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, the problem for in society, the problem with Title 42.
Yeah, well,
You're just
well, not only did we have common facts, they might take different positions on those facts. They might have different perspectives on how to analyze them or how to present them, and therefore there'd be some bias, right? There could
yeah,
be potential bias, but at least the facts were the same. Okay, uh, people weren't saying the Hindenburg did not blow up, right? The Hindenburg did not burn,
right.
or that it wasn't full of helium.
Well, what are we going to do in the meantime as we try to figure out? I, I, I guess what you're saying is we're not going to get immigration reform anytime soon.
Not if the Republicans can help it.
Yeah,
All they want to do is have these issues that take away from abortion and women's health rights, okay, that take away from the measures that the Biden administration has succeeded on, particularly the infrastructure bill, and the level of jobs, right, that have been produced as a result. And the infrastructure bill hasn't even been fully realized. It's all starting to roll out now.
yeah.
Okay.
Hey, we haven't. We're not even going to touch the debt ceiling uh,
Um, well,
because
that's the other thing that they don't want resolved, but
yeah,
that's very dangerous.
yeah. Let's sort of keep that for down the couple
Well,
days.
next week is
Yeah,
deadline.
We have
Next
until
week
June
is the
1st.
deadline, man.
June 1st, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So one Paul Krugman's column in the New York Times was interesting today because he was talking about pharmaceutical profits
yeah,
and the tax avoidance of the pharmaceutical companies, and how Trump's Trump's tax cuts of 2017 did not do what people think it did, cut taxes to the companies. It also enabled the companies to avoid taxes so that they could take intellectual property and patents, and because they're multinational companies, they can assign them to countries that, where they're in, that have lesser tax penalties than the United States, so they can
yeah,
do business in the United States and then
yeah.
claim that, oh, we're not a United States company, we are an Irish company, or we are a company from this foreign country which has more favorable tax advantages, and then they end up with high profits in America, in the US, that are then offset by tax losses because they put the patent in this foreign country. And that is sucking the revenue out of the United States. It's 2017, yeah, it's the Trump tax cut plans in 2017, and how they have been manipulated to honor tax avoidance. And you read that and you say, God, how, because the reason why our debt is so high is because revenues are lower. The Trump tax cuts had a lot to do with that. And now the Republicans don't want to play, even though during the Trump years, they raised the debt ceiling. And
Right,
that came out in the town hall.
right.
Yeah. So,
No,
anyway,
she did a good job. She did a good job, but the people were willing to be snowed by Mr. Trump. Yeah, look, you're right that the 2017 so-called tax reform, act,
yeah,
because it was signed in, was even more hurtful to the American economy than people understood.
yeah,
But the Democrats were saying that they were informing. It wasn't only the Democrats; it was very neutral
right.
scholars, and economists, and even global economists
Yeah.
were
Well,
criticizing it and
they,
saying this is really what it's doing. But the American public still, especially those that consider themselves conservative,
right.
what is one of the basic tenets of the Republican Party? What is one of the basic tenets of conservatism, without regard to party? Okay, because there was such a thing as conservative Democrats. I
Yeah.
believe there still are. What is a Manchin? You know,
Yeah. Joe
uh,
Manchin.
they call him a moderate. He's a conservative Democrat. Come on,
Yeah.
don't be calling him a moderate. You know,
All
uh,
right.
so
So,
so the point is that that again has existed forever. Okay, that's one of their tenets is no taxes or low taxes, and the general public believes that they've been doing that.
yeah.
So
And
they really have a hard time understanding how the 2017 so-called Tax Reform Act, right, really badly affected them. That
yeah.
it shifted the burden, right? It shifted the burden of revenue gathering to the middle class and the upper middle class. That's what it did. Okay, and they don't see it. They don't get it.
Right. And what does President Biden want to do? He wants to shift the burden back to the corporations, which
Ex- and
is,
and to wealthy people who
well,
profit from corporate profits.
yeah,
Okay.
and that definitely is the way. Anyway, all right. So let's
Well,
get to
you
our.
remember. Okay, why did the DeLorean take his car to Ireland? That's
Oh,
where it was
to get,
manufactured, right?
yeah,
That was offshoring, right?
yeah. Well,
Okay.
I mean,
What about the steel industry? How did that end up so that China and Japan can monopolize
yeah.
finishing steel,
Yeah.
right?
Well, look, that's one of the things in the Krugman column. He said, look, Apple can take its patents because it's not about where you manufacture or where you have your plants or where you have your warehouses. It's where your patents are domiciled, or where, what
Right,
the country of origin is. And so if Apple wanted to say their latest and greatest patent is out of Ireland, where Apple
right.
is, you know, money, outflows from the United States, go to Ireland, and United States out of luck. And that was in Krugman uses Apple because it hasn't suggested that. And maybe Apple is much more moderate or democratic than not. One would think, but I don't know. It's money, and money means a lot. It'll make you do crazy things in the corporate world.
Yeah, corporations exist to make money. Corporations exist to profit, to nonprofits,
Right,
nonprofits and profit taking corporations alike.
right,
Okay, people get really confused because they're seeing nonprofits making money.
yeah,
What's nonprofit is that they're doing a public service, and that the concentration of their activities can be seen as public service. Right? It's educational, it's science, it's art. Right? That kind of those are the three big areas where nonprofits have to establish their position. Their stance. But a profit making enterprise, right, has no loyalty to nation.
right. It's just
No,
yeah,
they're
and that's why
global.
it's perfect for the modern world, right? Where the workers are where are they? They're everywhere. They can be
That's right.
virtual. And but that's one of the problems when you say, "Hey, look, we're in America. We want our American income. We want our." So anyway, all right. Look, let's move to the fun topics. The
Oh
fun
boy.
topics that remain are Filipino Muppet and Golden State Warriors.
Oh boy.
I want to take on Filipino Muppet because I Emil is a lot like Elmo, and Emil Guillermo
Yeah.
somehow sometimes ends up as Elmo,
Uh,
and and what am I at? An effing Muppet?
I would have taken on the Elmo voice. I would have
Yeah,
just gone ahead with that. I would have rode with that. Yeah. Emil.
frankly,
You missed it, man. I
I
mean,
I don't know the Elmo voice. I mean, I know Elmo's red,
it's
right?
kind of normal. It's kind of
Elmo's red. Grover is blue,
right,
but
right.
Elmo, I don't know. Wait, is it
Yeah,
like there?
it's
There?
close. It's
Is
in
that
there.
an Elmo?
It's a
Is
little
that
in
Elmo?
yeah,
So, all
it's
right,
kind of
so
a
Elmo.
little trebly side.
Okay, Elmo's like that. Then what about this new guy, TJ?
Yeah,
Got a Chinese guy, voice actor, playing TJ.
right.
Although it was
So are
just
they going to make him an okay? So my question was: is he an immigrant with an accent, or is he just normal? Like
no,
you know,
he's brown like we are, but
yeah,
he's got like black hair, and
right.
I swear, I mean, this would have been a perfect capper to my. I could like die a happy man if I said, and the last job I had in broadcasting, the last job I had in,
Was playing
my
Elmo in Sesame Street.
not Elmo, TJ. I'm playing the Filipino
Oh, you want to
TJ.
be TJ? Okay.
I want to be the baby. I want to be the baby TJ. And my daughter said, "You can't play TJ. You got to talk like a baby." Okay, I'll talk like a baby. I talk like a baby.
Yeah, but is he accented?
Okay, I talk like an accent.
I don't know. Is he accent? I don't know. I haven't. I
I
gotta.
don't know. I'm
I'm
American.
going. I'm gonna have to watch Sesame Street to
I,
find out
I
whether or
live
not
on
they.
Sesame Street. I do not
He
live in
does.
the
Yeah,
Philippines.
I
Oh,
read a quick article and they said, well, I'm learning Tagalog.
oh yeah, that's right.
So yeah,
Tagalog.
I'm learning Tagalog.
Oh, this
So
is the language
and
of my.
it's not easy, but I can always ask my Lola,
Oh,
right?
it is the language of my daddy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's right. I'm American.
So
I'm going to go.
well, see, yeah, but there's an internal problem, right? There's an internal conflict, and
Yeah.
that's authenticity. What
Ah.
is a real Filipino? And you and I were both raised in an environment where the kano, the American-born Filipino. I mean, I got called at 50 years old. I walked into a restaurant, restaurant bakery that is closed now, but it was in Colma.
Coleman. What they
Uh,
call you?
on,
What they call you?
on
They call you
Amboy,
a what?
Amboy,
Amboy. Oh, yeah,
Amboy.
Amboy.
Yeah,
Amboy. Oh,
yeah.
American boy.
Tingin mo, ang boy.
Yeah,
Means
Amboy.
look. He's an amboy.
Amboy. Ah,
Yeah.
that's not good. I don't like. Smells bad. Amoy, 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 amboy. That's not
Boy.
good. Oh,
Oh no, we're gonna get in trouble now because
Emil
we're
had to
doing the
go.
accents.
Emil had to go, and so
I
that.
got called an amboy, and so I went and I bought flan anyway because I was looking for flan, and
Oh, leche plan. Oh, leche
yeah,
plan.
and so I bought it anyway, but I never went back there, and
Okay.
you
It's
know,
just it's me, TJ. I like leche
well,
plan.
that's a kind of arrogance, isn't it? And it's almost racist. It's quasi-racial.
It is. Why not have a Filipino? Because there's lots of unemployed Filipinos doing radio talk shows on the web like
Yeah,
this.
I didn't know you were unemployed.
Well, it's a matter of it's a manner of speaking. It's a
We're
it's a
self-employed is cool.
oh it's a figure of speech.
Oh,
Figure,
okay.
figure
Yeah.
of speech.
Oh boy, I got a lot of those.
Excuse me, figure of speech.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
We were always, when we were in trouble with our parents, they used many figures of speech.
Oh yeah, they have a figure.
Uh,
They have a figure of speech. Yes.
many.
So I have not seen this Filipino guy TJ. Have you? Because if I
No,
see
I
him,
haven't seen it. I gotta watch. I
I'm going
gotta
to beat
watch
him
Sesame
up.
Street.
I'm going to beat up the TJ. Oh,
You're gonna beat him up? Yeah.
get my barkada against
We
him.
don't know.
Let me drag him across. Take him to the cockfight. Let the cockfight.
Well, I wonder if his Lola is going to want him, if he's heterosexual. He grows up to be heterosexual. I wonder.
Oh,
I wonder
oh,
if his Lola is going to want him to
oh. We
marry
don't talk about that.
marry only a Pinay.
We don't
Only a
talk.
Filipina.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about
We
that.
don't talk about what, the sexuality part,
Oh
or
no, no, no. That's bad. That's bad. But we
okay.
talk about that in church. Only in church. Only in
You
the
know,
only in the presence of a priest. We don't talk about that. Only in the presence of a priest.
yeah.
So Dan, that was TJ. He had to leave. Bye TJ. Bye.
Okay. All
There he
right.
goes.
All
TJ
right.
goes.
Say hi to Lola. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, TJ. Yeah. All right. So the
So
other
this is a marker. This is something we're supposed to be proud of, right? Finally, there's a Filipino character.
yeah.
Is there an Asian Indian? Is there an East
There
Indian?
there is there's a Korean and there's a I think there's a Korean girl and
I
yeah.
remember that. I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I think it's weird. I think it's weird. I would rather what would I rather have? I'd rather see Filipinos say on the Golden State Warriors. I mean, well, Jordan Clarkson, half Filipino, plays for Utah, and there've been Filipino stars. What else? There was a
There's
Filipino.
certainly enough. There's certainly enough African American players in the Philippines, right?
Yeah, African American players love the Philippines because the Filipinos love basketball, and they've got the PBA. We've got the
Yep.
PBA.
Yep.
When I covered the Warriors a couple of years, and whenever the Warriors were in the playoffs, Filipinos would fly in from Manila just to see a Warrior game, a playoff game. First round or second round, they were here. They came here. I mean, it's pretty incredible, I thought, because it's not a cheap ticket. You bring your 4 kids. I mean, there's some well-to-do Filipinos coming to America. That was like 4 or 5 years ago. I know. I just they love basketball there, and that's why I think this Laker Warrior series is probably the most Asian American followed basketball series around. Don't you think? Right between the
Well,
Lakers.
it's all three teams so far, right, on the West division, were all California.
Yeah, Sacramento. Yeah.
So we have one of the highest concentrations, right? Of
The highest.
yeah, yeah.
Highest. Yeah. All right. So tell me, what do you think? The Warriors got to win tonight. They got to have a game
Well,
6.
yeah, it's an absolute
Yeah.
must. It's an absolute must, and
And
they got to do two again, two in a row. Actually, three in a row.
3 in a row. 3. They won game 5. That was a good one. Now
Yep.
they win game
Got to
6.
do two more. Yeah.
Then they come back home and They steal this one on the road, and then the next one they protect home court and win Game 7, and then it's not over. Then you got to keep climbing that hill. I don't know if they can do it, but I'm going to say they will. What do you think?
I don't know either. It all come, they need more help from some of the people who have the capacity to score high, score a lot.
You mean Jordan Poole?
Yeah, you have a thing about JP, and he's been doing well in the short minutes that he's played.
He's
Okay,
played better the last game than he did in
yes,
game
previous games.
4. Yeah, but
Well, the other guy, is Thompson.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thompson played well, he actually played well in Game 4, but we
Well,
lost.
he
We
has
lost.
he whenever he hits a basket, he plays well, but he then misses a lot of baskets, and he's got this shooter's mentality: just keep shooting, and the Warriors, they just can't afford missing. They got to make. I mean,
Well,
I think
and my
he,
my beloved spouse
yeah,
is screaming at the TV,
I
"Do the twos, take twos,
I know.
hit
Bustos,
the
bustos,
rim,
take
hit
those
the
dos,
rim,
take those
get
dos.
in the paint." And I agree with her completely. We're both yelling at the TV, saying, "What? There's nothing wrong with being in the paint, man.
You know, when they rebound and score in the paint, they're doing well.
That's
When
right.
they aren't hitting the threes, I mean, when you think about it, if it's all about the higher percentage shot, and the higher
That's right.
percentage shot is right under the basket, 94%
That's it.
more, right?
That's it.
And those are 2 points. You make, say, all right. So now if the further away from the basket, it's like a 30% or less shot. The better ones are 40% from three. But say, you won't hit a high percentage if you take too many.
That's right.
See, if you shoot 20 3-pointers and you make 50%,
Yeah,
10.
well, and so, not only do those things count, but when they do a fast break
Yeah,
and they pass the ball twice
yeah,
on the way into the paint,
yeah,
they score all. I mean, they must be scoring at about 60%.
yeah,
When they come in that way,
yeah.
particularly when Curry is the guy who carries the ball to the rim. But Anthony Davis, man, he is really really good under the rim. Plus, he's taller than everybody, but he's really good.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things the Warriors do is they're under the basket and they might have it looks like they have a clear shot. I'm not there underneath with them, so maybe they're just freaked out that Anthony Davis is going to swat them down. But there are times when they're under the rim, and instead of going up and trying to get fouled or getting the high percentage shot, they kick it back out for a three.
Yeah, they pass it out of the paint.
And that frustrates you. You're like right underneath for the high percentage shot, and then you kick it out, and then all right. So now they're doing a 3-pointer, and then they miss. They
Well,
do
that's what I
that
was going
a
to
lot.
say. That's what I was going to say. They blow. Well, how many times in the last 2 games have you seen them get an offensive rebound 3 times?
Yeah,
3 times they
and they're
get
all on the outside.
yeah, and then they pass it out of the paint and
Yeah.
they miss.
They,
That is nasty. They also have missed layups
oh yeah,
after
yeah,
rebounds. And Looney's working his butt off,
yeah,
right? I mean, he's doing absolute heroic duty under the rim,
yeah. But
and he has to do it himself a lot
this
of the
is the
time.
thing. This is the thing that make the Warriors when they win. It's because Draymond scores.
Oh,
Because
yeah, that's a good point.
when Draymond doesn't score, and he's just
Assisting, he's doing a lot of jabbering and
jabbering
assisting,
and passing the
passing.
ball. And sometimes he's not passing the ball that well, but I get it. He's the enforcer plus he's the distributor. Okay. But they need him to score underneath. And a lot of times he'll be underneath and he'll pass it out when he could get that high percentage shot. In
That's
that
right.
last game, yeah, game 5, he had 20 points, first time in years. And
Right, that's true. Yeah,
And when he scores, they win because it's got to be Curry and someone else. It
right.
hasn't been Thompson so much. It hasn't been Jordan Poole. and now it may not be Wiggins because he's hurt. They're going to need. They can replace Wiggins with Poole if he's ready, but
GP was good.
oh yeah, Gary
Um,
Payton's always good, but he's not a
and,
high volume scorer. Not a high volume.
no, but he could be.
Well, underneath he's a high
Yeah,
volume scorer.
that
Uh,
man had springs.
yeah,
I
if
mean,
he's
so he also was good on offensive rebounds.
yeah, he's good underneath the basket offensively and defensively. And when he hits a three, it's kind of extra. And fortunately, he's set up to do those corner threes.
Yeah,
He
he
has a
is.
higher percentage three than being out at the elbow or out at the top of the key. I don't know. I go way back with the Warriors.
The other Green also played well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd rather see the time given to Moses Moody or
Oh,
Kaminga.
Moody was really good.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Moody's. I've always liked Moody, and I guess it's his shooting that has turned things around. But let's see. They got to win Game 6, and then once they win Game 6, and then we got Sunday Game 7, and then we'll talk about the Denver Nuggets because I think they're going to have to get by the altitude of Denver and
yeah. That again.
Jokic. So
Yeah, Mr. Jokic.
yeah. So Dan, I think that's it for today.
Okay,
Uh,
so it's going to be think good thoughts.
for the for the
Give
Warriors.
power and spirit to the Warriors. Cut through that LA air. They call it air.
Is Anthony Davis going to play? He's hurt.
Yes, he's going to play. The question is, how well does he play?
He's going to play like a drunken sailor. Oh, man, Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I think it's kind of dangerous. I mean, he really looked whacked. I mean, no pun intended.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I it could it the effects of a semi concussion could last. I
yep.
mean, he could lose his balance. He could be off. I don't know. And then Wiggins on the Warriors side, he's hurt. So, but maybe they give him. They say he can wear a flak jacket. He'll be okay. But anyway, all right. We'll cross our
Hey
fingers
man,
and hope that the Warriors win.
thanks for having me on as usual.
And
It was a
look,
pleasure having this discussion.
hey, thank
And
you again. Thank you again, Dan. And we will check back offline. There he goes. Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Asian American Studies, Political Science. He does international relations, as he points out. It was his undergrad, but he can talk about international relations. Anyway, always good to have Dan. Daniel Phil Gonzalez here on Emil Amok's Takeout. All right, that's it. Hey, we're going to root for the Warriors tonight, and then hopefully there's a Game 7. If there's no Game 7, it's going to be feeling very despondent next week. Oh, come on, Emil. It's just a game. Okay. It's just a game. Read my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, where I talk about the new yellow peril. Trump's got Joe Biden in there, representing the new yellow peril in America. Not yellow apparel, just the new yellow peril. Oh, yeah, and I forgot. Happy Mother's Day to all you out there on Sunday. It'll have to be a Mother's Day special, and the Warriors will give a Mother's Day present for all if they win on Sunday. They've got to. Regular listeners know, hey, you can find us on Twitter at Emil Amok, EMILAMOK on Twitter. Yeah. The place to watch the show. You can also find us I put links up on Instagram at Emil Amok, EMILAMOK1. YouTube at Emil Amok1, EMILAMOK1. That's at YouTube. And Facebook, fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media. Replays on AMOK.com. Hey, it's been it's been a lot of stuff happening this week. I hope you're all right. Hope you're good. Hope you're going to enjoy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to you all. In the meantime, you also know I like to meditate. I'm going to meditate here right now in front of you. The loving kindness meditation. It always begins with loving self-kindness. It has to, right? Before you can give it to others. But actually, that's what one would think. But no, you've got to show it first to others, and then it comes back. That's the difference. Loving self-kindness, it goes like this: as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Go Warriors. Till next time. Emil Guillermo here. Mahal.